Hi, I'm Karen and I made this video introducing you to nested loops, showing you how to use them, and giving you real-world examples of when you might need to use them. What are nested loops? A nested loop is made when one or more loops is inside another loop. Necessary when a task performs a repetitive operation that must be repeated. Any type of loop can be nested. You could have a for loop nested in a while loop or vice versa. In a nested loop, the outer loop takes control of the number of complete repetitions of the inner loop. In this example, we have for int I equals 1, while I is less than or equal to 10, I plus plus. The nested loop, it reads for int k equals 1, while k is less than or equal to 10, k plus plus. Then we print out a pound sign. How many pound signs will be printed total? To figure out how many pound signs were printed, we need to understand that when working with nested loops, the outer loop changes only after the inner loop is completely finished. In our previous example, for every 10 pound signs printed by the inner loop, the outer loop incremented by 1. This gives us a total of 100 pound signs printed from our previous example. Let's look at some real-world examples of nested loops. These examples need to have an inner loop that has a complete cycle before any of the outer loops are changed. These examples include a clock, multiplication tables, or an odometer for a car. For a real-world example of using nested loops, let's print out all of the multiplication tables 1 through 12. We're going to start off by saying import java.util.scanner. Declare our class, public class, mine's named example. We're going to declare our main, public static void main string args. Inside our main is where we're going to have our nested for loops. So the first for loop, the outer for loop, is going to say for int I equals 1, because we're going to start at 1, while I is less than or equal to 12. We're going to go 1 through 12. Increment I. Now we're going to have our nested for loop. So this one, for int, I'm going to call it k equals 1, while k is less than or equal to 12, we're going to increment k. This way, the inner for loop is going to iterate 12 times for every one time that the outer loop iterates. So inside this one, we're going to say system.out.println. This is where we're going to print out our times tables. So we're going to say I plus multiplication symbol plus k plus equals symbol plus I times k. Let's compile this program. We're going to run it. Here you can see that it printed out all the multiplication tables 1 through 12 with their answers. We're going to look back at our previous example where we used a nested for loop inside another for loop to print out all multiplication tables. Now you don't have to use two for loops. With this example, we're going to change the outer for loop to a while loop. So while I is less than or equal to 12, we're going to do this, which means we need to declare our I above our for loop, so int I equals 1. Then after the inner for loop, my curly brace, after the inner for loop is implemented, we're going to say I plus plus, and this will increment the outer while loop. Let's compile that, run it, and we get the same output, all 12 multiplication tables. There you go.